There may not be a better sound in the entire world than that of a steam whistle echoing through the hills. Thankfully, we only had to listen to 78 whistles on this day. What's up, guys? This is Hyce. A few weeks ago, I had the privilege of going out to the Kentucky Steam Heritage Corporation for their annual whistleblow event. Enthusiasts from all across the country came and brought their whistles for everyone to make some noise and get to hear all these cool different things. The event was fantastic and really well run, but what excited me about the event was getting to learn more about how whistles actually work. A couple years ago in 2022, I put out a video called Whistles 101, and I made a little bit of an error in that video that I've since learned the real reason behind one of the mechanics, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And thinking of that beautiful echo that I mentioned at the very beginning, friend of the channel Nick Hovey brought his Pennsylvania Railroad Banshee single note whistle, and he assigned me a very important task. Go capture the sound of his whistle echoing through the hills of Appalachia. Hovey's tasked me with going south to get the echo. What does the fat guy run for? Whistles. Whistles only. And beer. Also beer. Worth it. That echo was awesome. Water time. 2 more whistles, 3 more on the Banshee again. Yeah, 2 or 3 more than the Banshee. I'm deeming this far enough, Bill.
Oh, absolutely.
Dude, it's worth it.
Absolutely.
What did we do? We made loud noises, and then we're stupid. I don't know how that's different than literally any other day. Do you?
No.
Yeah.
I seen the running. And I was like, oh, shit.
His railroader response kicked in. I need to save the people. No, whistle noises. There. Oh, that fair enough. Alright, let's get into the whistle nerdery here. After I posted my Whistles 101 video, I had a very nice viewer reach out to me and message me about how I got this fact wrong. And I wish I could remember the dude's name, but it's been 2 years, and the amount of people I talk to on a day-to-day basis, it's a good problem to have, but I can't remember. And he told me how a whistle actually works. I had said in my video that it was similar to a flute, that you split the fluid going into an opening, and that causes the metal to vibrate, and that's what actually creates the sound. As the steam comes through the gap in the languid plate, it comes up and it strikes the edge of the bell of the whistle. Some goes inside, some goes outside. And that splitting action causes a vibration in the whistle itself. That's what starts to create the actual noise. This gentleman who reached out to me told me it's not that at all. It is that, yes, the flow of fluid is getting split between the bell and outside the bell, but what really happens is that the steam is going inside and pressurizing that chamber and then rapidly depressurizing it. and it's the actual fluid itself that is making the sound. It's very similar to when you roll down the window in your car, just one of them on the highway, and you get that helicopter sound. The same effect's happening. You're pressurizing the interior of the car and then depressurizing it rapidly. It corresponds with the pitch that you hear. And because a car interior is so large, it's so low pitched that you can't hear the sound. You just hear the pressure change like a helicopter. It's so low into the bass frequencies. But with whistles being so much smaller, it creates an audible tone, and that's actually what generates the sound. The pitch corresponds then with the length of the chamber. The longer a whistle's chamber is, the longer it takes for it to pressurize and then depressurize. And that sets the actual wavelength of the sound itself, given temperature and pressure of steam and other stuff too, but it's actually what drives this whole phenomena. Now, this explanation makes sense, but it's a little hard to wrap your head around, and it doesn't really look like that at full speed that we can see. But not sponsored, but thanks to GoPro for adding a new 400 FPS slow-mo on the new Hero 13. And side note, like GoPro, use your stuff. Somebody want to hook me up, that'd be great. With a tall enough whistle, we can actually watch this thing happen at that speed. And it is some of the coolest crap I've ever gotten on video. So here we can take a look at a small single note whistle, and even with this small of a single note, you can see the individual pulses of steam. Look around the edge of the bell and that'll actually show you what's going on. Now note, I was focused on getting video recordings and not necessarily audio recordings of everything. If you want to hear all these whistles, links down in the description to a couple folks who recorded the whole event and even live streamed it. But now take a look at the big, tall hooter. I believe this was a Norfolk and Western hooter, or very similar. You can really see the individual pulses and puffs of steam in and out, and we can count them and compare them against the frequency. Okay, we can see when we bring in a little snippet of the recording of that same whistle into Spectra layers. Not long and definitely clipping, but we can easily see the fundamental frequency right here. And the little chart up in the upper right says it's about 320-ish. If we refine it a little bit, we can pinpoint that at about 318, we'll call it. That's the frequency of the fundamental sound of the steam itself. All these other lines that we see over the top are actually the overtone series, so you can get the fundamental, you can get the second harmonic, then you can get the third, and you go up all the way up the overtone series just from that one single note whistle. But what about a chime whistle, one with multiple chambers? Well, take a look at Hovey's Penzie 3 chime, one that sounds so good that I told him he should take out a life insurance policy. You can see the different speeds. And the same is true on even bigger 3-note whistles. This whistle was a little bit taller than Hovey's 3, but it's a lot bigger in diameter, and you can see that the puffs of steam are all based on the overall speed of steam entering the chamber. It has nothing to do with the diameter of the whistle itself. And then of course a 6 chime whistle is a lot of fun to look at because you get 6 different chambers. You can see about 4 of them right here, all puffing at various different speeds corresponding with each chamber length. Shout out to channel fan Lee for this clip. His phone filmed at 960 FPS, even faster though at a little bit worse resolution. An impressive piece of tech, but it really helps show that difference between the tallest chime and the shortest chime. And here's a Hancock 3, like what's on the big boy. Without any fins that go all the way down to the bottom of the languid, it actually shows the puffs of steam very clearly. So this wacky looking whistle is my buddy Nick Hovey's weird 5 chime. He found it at an antique shop in Grand Junction, Colorado. We'd never seen a whistle built like this. It's kind of like a boiler tube whistle, but usually they still have a relatively normal looking languid plate. But in this one, you have the bowl and then all the chambers are the same length, but the languids are at different heights. And we weren't sure what it was going to sound like whatsoever, or were we? I took some measurements of the whistle and I generated, via some math and my understanding, I generated a simulation of what I thought the whistle would sound like, and it was really close, which you love to see. I only had a simple tone generator on hand with the correct frequencies. And that sounds pretty close, but it's hard to tell with all the timbral differences. So I asked my buddy Mark over at Studio 346 to see if he would put my tone generated nonsense into his Hyacinth program to actually simulate the whistle. That's a little bit better demonstration than just the tone generator.
But it's that close!
Oh yeah, they casually had one of the whistles off of a Liberty ship at the event. It rattled my skull being anywhere near it that close. Ear protection firmly in there, my ears were okay, but I mean you could feel your whole body vibrating from the raw bass of this thing. And they really had to fire the little Vulcan 040 to actually keep up with the steam demand of something so big. Remember what I said earlier about a tall whistle makes this easier? Because it's a longer wavelength, therefore we're filling the chamber fewer times and you can more easily see it within the frame rate that we have. Yeah, this one wins. This whistle was like 2.5 feet tall, and watching this thing saturate the chamber and watching the individual enter and release of steam is just absolutely fantastic to watch. I hope you guys are nerding out as hard as I am on this.
Dude, we're like 100 yards away from it and it still hurts my head.
But that wasn't one of the most interesting single note whistles for me that was at the event. There was this single note whistle that had the bell kind of canted, like the stud had been bent at some point in its life. And it helped us watch a really interesting phenomena. Some whistles chirp or they squeak. Particularly like a Norfolk and Western hooter is very famous for this. And I've wanted to understand the mechanic. Once I'd seen a whistle in slow motion, I knew, okay, well this is how this bit works, but how does the squeak work? I can empirically see with the data and a spectrogram plot of the whistle and what it does, that almost every single time a whistle squeaks, it goes to 3 times the frequency. So if it was 100 hertz before, now it's 300 hertz. It's hitting the 3rd harmonic in the overtone series. So you have the first being the root, the normal sound like a normal guitar string, the second being an octave, and then the third being a 5th above the octave. So it's a different note musically, but it is just 3 times the frequency. Some of the more chirp-happy whistles that were at the event helped me see this phenomena, but I honest to God wish I still had more frame rate to actually check it out. Fan of the channel, Lee, was very kind and found out his cell phone could film even faster, 960 FPS, but even with that, it wasn't quite enough to really see exactly what was going on during one of these squeaks. So if anyone knows how to get in contact with the SLO-MO guys, let me know. It would be awesome to collaborate with them and try and study this thing further with something that can record at an insane frame rate. Okay, here's that offset hooter. You can see how offset the bell is. It's not centered over the languid at all, and this is when it's blowing normally. It's established its normal pitch, the fundamental number 1. And now here's when it's squeaking. Look at how the pulse rate is so different and the steam cloud is shifted very far off to the right. What's hard to see within this frame rate, though, is that it looks like the pulses have actually slowed down, and I don't know if it's just because we're not able to physically see the speed at which these pulses are happening, or if there's some sort of audio trickery going on where we're getting 2 separate tones that are lining up and overlaying on each other, causing us to orally hear a sound that is 3 times the pitch. That is possible within mathematics. I don't know which it is, and I would love to know. And again, taller whistle, easier to see with lower frame rate. So here is a Norfolk and Western hoot or equivalent blowing as it does regularly. And next we'll get a couple quick chirps by Nick, trying to make it chirp for me so we could get this footage. You can see real briefly, it almost looks like the pulses are actually even faster right as they establish, which makes a little bit more sense than the mathematical theory, but it's hard to know for sure. Here's an interesting case of another single note whistle, this time a short one again, but the steam cloud helps point to what's going on. Perhaps the languid gap on this whistle isn't entirely even, because you get a huge jet of steam steam out of the one side when it's actually doing the squeak. And as much fun as these squeaky whistles are, there's one that I really want to talk about. Longtime viewers of the channel will recognize this whistle quite handily. This is my Huber 6 chime. It's a whistle that I built a number of years ago, and we did a video about it early on in the channel's history in mid-2022. Hovey was kind enough to drive it out from Colorado to Kentucky, and he's going to drive it back later as well. Very kind of him to do that, and that way we could take it out there and let everyone hear it and have fans of the channel get to blow the whistle at the whistle blow. It was really, really cool. We got to hear the whistle sing amongst the hills of Appalachia, and call me a softie, I wasn't ready for that. I went down to listen to the echo of my whistle, and hearing that hauntingly through the hills as the sun had started to set was pretty moving for me.
Sounds really good.
All right, people have fun. I got my fix. Pretty cool, man.
It just sounds like get out of the way, I'm telling you.
I'm such a sap. I'm literally crying over that.
And of course I had to get some slow-mo shots of my own whistle, duh. I think somebody even pointed out in Delay and Block's live stream coverage of the event that I ran up to it like a happy father to film it, and that's probably pretty accurate. That's how I am. But it's interesting to see, the thing that I've noticed about my whistle versus the others is that because I patterned the radius of it off of a Rio Grande 5, the chambers are radially a fair bit smaller than a lot of these other whistles, because the central support is so much bigger. It's actually a lot bigger than the whistle that the lengths are patterned on, a Santa Fe 6. And as such, the flow characteristic looks a little different. As you watch the steam flow through a very tight and freshly machined languid gap, you don't get the same kind of wall of steam. It's a little bit less volume, and maybe that's what helped contribute to the whistle's very even sound. I don't know. This would be another fun one to study under even a tighter microscope, but such a cool thing to see, and it was genuinely moving to have something that I helped to build actually making noise and getting to hear it in this context. That was perhaps one of my favorite moments from the event, other than nerding out, getting to meet a bunch of wonderful viewers of the channel, and getting to hear all these amazing whistles, was hearing and seeing some whistles that were really rare, that were unique in some cases, or very important to their owners or the history of the whistle itself. Such as this Southern Railway 6 chime. There's only a handful of these in existence, and there was one there at the whistle blow, and we got to hear, and I got to film it in slow motion. Super cool stuff. Fantastic sounding whistle as well. But I think along those lines, one of the coolest whistles that was at the event was one that we didn't get to hear that day for a very special reason.
Belongs to that gentleman there in the Ravenna shirt.
Okay.
5-inch Crosby.
Okay.
East Broad Top number 11.
What?
EBT number 11. Prairie, I believe.
Oh, it's on slow motion. We have me reacting in 400 FPS slow-mo.
All right, go ahead and make your memes. I forgot to change the setting on my GoPro, and it resulted in some very silly footage. And I can only help but think that I looked like Gollum staring at the Precious when I stare back at it. It's fine.
Please pick up, Jersey. Pick up, you bastard. No, I'm not butt dialing you through Snap. No, answer now. You're being filmed by several cameras because I need your reaction to this because I about fell over. I'm holding a thing. Do you know what this thing is?
What is that?
It's East Broad Top 11's 3 chime. It's the one! It's right here!
How much do I want it?
All right, this is very important and very expensive, and I would like to hand it back to its owner.
You mean you're not gonna stake off with it?
No, that is unbelievable.
They never come
Yeah. Okay. Back to your regularly scheduled programming.
I knew that I had to call my buddy Jersey after I found this out. And, I mean, mistakenly filming myself reacting in 400 FPS slow-mo was a little hilarious, but it's Jersey's dream to rebuild the East Broad Top number 11. It was the last engine on the EBT that got scrapped. It was the 262 that they stretched into 282 number 12, basically, at least design-wise, that started the pattern of the modern locomotive of the EBT. And so it's such a fantastic locomotive, and very few pieces of it still exist. And the fact that one that is so important, its voice is still here, is truly remarkable. The fact that I got to hold it in my hands was insane to me. It was really cool. All in all, it was a fantastic day and fantastic event. Learning about more whistles, learning how things worked, and hearing all of this cool stuff, meeting a bunch of fans of the channel was absolutely amazing. I also got to fire the 040 Vulcan earlier in the day. They were doing an engineer school kind of event, and I actually got to teach a couple of the fans of the channel how to run a steam locomotive. Didn't realize that was happening until I got there, but what a fun treat, and special thanks to Barney for letting me fire his engine. That was just a ton of fun to get to experience. I'm definitely going to be going back to Kentucky Steam, and as I said in the last video, there's going to be a couple more nerdy fun videos coming out probably next weekend from Jason and I filming silly things about the locomotives. So look forward to those, but I hope you guys enjoyed this rabbit hole. I love getting into the weeds on stuff like this. Doing literal locomotive science to some extent is really, really cool, and I hope you enjoyed it. As always, thank you so much for watching. Well, he told me to be filming when I walk out, so... Dear Lord, is this for me? I can't read the sign.
We did backlight it.
No. I've got some of those. And Johnny, for your services on the ES&D as an engineer and conductor, I present you with pay.
My pay!
In person. I actually do pay people sometimes, but yes, in packing peanuts.
In peanuts, not even real ones.